Welcome back, everybody. Kathy Arbor here, and I'm back from my gardening. I took the week off. My sister was down, and she came up to help me do my gardening, and I can't refuse that. So today we're going to be doing some pansies. As you can see, I have a little flat here. Aren't they so cute? These are viola, actually. Pansies are usually the great big ones that are like this big. I do have a flat of those, but there's not many in bloom. So I thought we could use these. These are so sweet. I love these. And these ones will come up every year if you let it seed. And they're fairly tough. You can put them in your garden right now. I love these with the little eye on the bottom. That's so cute. They come in different colors. There's some nice red ones here, really dark. And the orange ones with the purple. There's some pretty white and purple. Hey, Kathy. Good to see you. Are you new here, or you been here but just lurking before? Have you got pansies in your garden? So that's what we're going to do, and some bees, of course, because all the bees are out. You're new? Awesome. Well, welcome to the channel. Are you interested in watercolor, or are you mixed media? What do you like to do? Hey, Janet. I haven't been to the post office yet, Janet. My son has the car today, so I'll probably have him check it out when he gets home. I do and have tried and pressed many. Oh, you pressed yours. Yes, well, you're going to want to come back on Thursday. I love to put flowers and leaves in my embossing machine, and they come out fantastic. So come back on Thursday too, and that's our mixed media time. And we'll be doing some faux eco printing, I guess you could call it. You're learning watercolor. Awesome. We're all learning here. It doesn't matter how experienced you are, you're always learning, right? So I hope you get some kind of inspiration while you're here. If you have any questions, just put it in caps. That way I'm able to see you a little easier. Um, let's see, just looking. Yes, I took the week off. Hi, Sharon. Good to see you. I took the week off because it was going to be nice weather, although we did get rained out a few days, but I'm not complaining. Uh, I'm a big gardener. I actually have a gardening channel also. It's called Gardening Artfully, if you want to check that out. And I take you around for some little tours around what I'm doing in my garden. I have lots of floral pictures if you want to have some references for florals on my Instagram, and it's Kathy Arbor on my Instagram. So I thought we could do some flowers. So we did these April, March. Not all of these were done on stream, I don't think. We did that the last time. So it's just a very quick little, and this isn't watercolor paper. If you're, depending on what kind of watercolor you want to do, I like just doing stuff in my journals with watercolor. I'm not necessarily into the paintings that you'd hang on the wall. I I could, but, I like playing in my journals. I like document my, gardening practices, that type of thing, or I just like to create, and that's a great place to put it. There's no stresses when you're working in a journal. This is not an expensive journal, it's plain sketchbook paper, and it eases the pressure of having a perfect journal or a perfect page every time. Now, it is a little different when working with watercolor, but I think that goes with anything you're doing. It's just a matter of changing things, water, pigment, whatever, depending on the paper you're using, if that makes sense. So, recently I've been doing these little sketches, and this was inspired by the Creative Cove. I think it's the Creative Cove, her name. Pretty sure it's Creative Cove. She's on Instagram and she's got a YouTube channel too. Um, and then I thought, I like the pen. So then I started doing my little fairies. I love doing fairies. Anything fairy, elf, that type of thing. So I thought we could do some, show you how I go about doing some drawing of flowers. And I will show you just the basics of how to look at things when you're drawing. So I'm going to get out a pencil here. Probably have to use a little bit of a heavier, softer pencil. Let's see. Don't know where I put all my mechanical pencils. I do like using mechanical pencils because you don't have to sharpen them. And they're usually dark enough for you to, oh, there's one. And you don't have to get the expensive ones. I usually get the cheaper ones from the dollar store. Save some money. They work just as good. So this one here is Paper Mate, and it's a 0.7. It's got a little eraser on the end. It's one of the white erasers, which is good. So I thought, let's do some bees because there's lots of bees out. I have some little Dutch iris that are out. They look fantastic. That's the only thing that's blooming right now. Hey, Joan, good to see you. So when I'm gonna just bring you in a little bit so you can see what I'm doing here. Now, did you know that you can pinch your screen and bring your picture in close with YouTube? I didn't know that. I was so amazed by that. I was telling my son that and he goes, "Yeah?" He looks at me like that's been known for a long time, Mom. I'm so not techy. I thought it was a great thing I learned. Hmm. Do you draw by memory or do you have a model pick? You talking to me, Janet, or to someone else? So I thought we could draw some violas, and I broke one. So there's a nice little viola. It's a little pictures, yes. Uh, Janet? No, I'm Kathy. I don't think there's another Janet here, is there? People always get my names mixed up. So I'm going to use this as my reference. And I do have some bees I got off of the internet. So here's some different bee um, positions. I guess you could say that's okay. That's okay. Uh, what your mom or my mom or dad would say? Call me anything, but make sure you call me for lunch. Uh, so what we'll do, I'm just gonna put, let's see, something down here so we can see this a little better. And I thought it would be kind of neat. Now, you can see they have, they're all the same basically. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 petals. So there's 3 and then there's 2 that overlap each other on the top. And then just a little wee center. And they come in many, many different colors. Um, so you can make them basically anything. So here's, see, many, many different colors. So you do use a model or sorts. Yeah, yeah, definitely I do. Um, I would say if you're starting out, not even just if you're starting out, most artists always use a reference. Doesn't matter how good you are. You a very fine percentage of people can actually remember every detail of something. There are the very few people that can do that. Photo, what do they call it? Photo um, memorized memory or whatever it is. But most of us can't. And if you're wanting to do it more into the realistic or get the overall character of whatever you're drawing, you should get a reference. I usually pick some wildflowers this morning and put them in. Oh yes, putting them in. Yeah, I want to actually on Thursday we're going to do some uh, pressing of these in my embossing machine and we'll get the colors out. These are the best flowers to use for putting in your embossing machine because the color comes out true and it stays. It doesn't fade. And they're also great for pressing. And what I do is I just get an old book and press them in that, and they turn out fantastic. And the nice thing about these these are violas. That's what they call them. They can come up every year, and let them seed. And then you can keep picking them. The more you pick them, the more blooms you'll get. So keep picking them. When you start letting them go completely to seed, then they'll kind of get leggy looking and they'll stop producing flowers. You've never tried? Oh, I've done it. I've got quite a few videos now, but come back Thursday and you'll see what we do. It's awesome. And the snow's gone, so I'm able to get some leaves and different things, and we'll do some uh, spray on them and that type of thing. They're really fun to do. All right, so let's get the starts of this. So when you're drawing something like this, let's draw this whole thing here. I'm going to make it a little bigger than what it is because I want my bee to be fairly big. So what we're going to do is I'm going to use a pencil. Uh, Best to use a pencil, I say. You don't always have to, but if you're just starting out, I would suggest using a pencil. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 stems. Okay, so we're going to bring it up here like this, and there's another one that overlaps. You don't have to keep them in the same position. You can always change it up a little bit. And we have a small one right there, so 4. Let me take the lighting down just a bit. There. And I'll put the lighting up when I do the watercolor. Um, Never tried. Oh, okay. So now this stem here, it's fairly thick. So I'm just going to make this stem here a little bit thicker. And then this one comes off of that. Same with this one, comes off of the main stem. Depending on if you want it or under or over the other stems at the bottom, you can decide that. Okay. And then this one here actually has a little additional stem coming up. And then it's got these frilly little leaves. These are just new. So you can they're kind of ragged looking on the ends. And they come up like this. It's kind of a bud in there. Now that may be another flower coming up, or maybe it's going to extend itself a little bit longer. Okay. And then down in the bottom here, you have a lot more leaves. And they're not very big leaves. The viola leaves aren't very big. Now, when you get into the regular pansy that aren't hardy, they don't come back usually. They'll be a little bit bigger leaf. So these ones kind of are roundish. So we can put some of those. Some have stems, some don't. Some are attached to the stem itself. There's a lot of growth in there. I'm going to just take out this section here because I want to put a leaf there. So maybe this one just comes down like that. Okay, we don't have to put them all in, but I think it makes it look a little more interesting when you have a few in there. I'm going to take the stem down a little bit more. And that's all I'm going to do for the leaves. So this is a dead one. I kind of like this. It's showing a bud, a fully open one that's just dying, and one that's dead. So this would have the seed pod in it. So they curl over, and then they have a little bit of brackets on the bottom of. Now what you're seeing and what I'm seeing might be two different things because I'm viewing it in a different angle. So I'm just looking at the petals that are closest to me without anything overlapping necessarily. There's not a whole lot to this one. Might be a little bit fatter up there though. It's kind of like that. Let's do, this one's gonna be the bud. So see the bud? So it does have a little bit of curve to it, a little bit of a knob on the very end here. And then these little petals, leaf petals, like that protect the bloom itself. And then just coming out, not very far, just starting to come out the very end here is the petals of the flower, like that. Okay. And then this one here, it's dyed. And I'm going to see. Do you want me to bring you guys in a little bit? Just a smidge. Is that better? This one here, it's little brackets, they're kind of up in the air a little bit. And then they have those little green leaf things are like that. And then just a dead piece of flower there, like that. Okay, now this, I'm going to make it a little bit lighter so you can see the definition a bit. So see, we have 5 petals. So when we're doing this, let's just make a little circle. So there's the circle. And then from that circle, there's that yellow part. It's kind of like a beard. And then there's this little bump on both sides. From the center of that bump is where these two meet. But we're going to do the other ones. So where those bumps and that little yellow part, this is where the bottom, usually the bottom petal is a lot bigger than any of the other ones. And then from this corner, this top part here comes around and it just folds underneath that other one like this. So the bottom one is on top. So when you're looking at the top of this, just off to the side a little bit, going into the second one here, when almost like this, like that. And then the other one goes around like this. And that's a pansy. Very quick, easy, not too much. Really, it's simple. And then you have your little pansy, and you can make them any color you want. Any questions? So now we're going to do the bee. We could put a couple bees in. I'm just going to bring that up there like that. So let's see, the bee, maybe let's put this bee in first. So the bees have kind of a jelly bean shape, if you see. So when it's a jelly bean shape, you're seeing the top part of the jelly bean. So this part, when you're viewing it from on top. So it's kind of like an oval shape. So we'll put oval. Could even make his little butt a little bigger because it's rounded. Okay. Now I'm looking at the top part. So you're not really seeing his head because it's kind of, this is what they do. They're kind of arched. So you're not seeing his head a whole lot. So I'm just going to put his little antennas in. And they don't have very big antennas. They're not that big. So don't make them too large. And then his wings are not in the center, but up closer to where the head is, the thorax. And they have small wings. They're not that big for the size of their body. Little wee ones, so little teardrops. And there's 4 total. Like this. Like that. And then his little stripes. So don't go straight across because he has shape. So he's kind of round. He's got a cylinder shape to him. So you want to indicate that by the way you put your lines. So this black part, it's almost a ball on top. And then another ring, and it's a little shorter, but widens as you get to the top, like this. And the same with the next line, widens on the top. And then that's his this bottom part. And usually that's a little more of a whiter color. Now his little legs, he has 2 front legs, and they're kind of like long triangles. So they're segmented. And then he has these little feet. Like that. And then down here, his feet are fairly close together. So his other one, again, is segmented, kind of a triangle shape. Usually about 3 of them. And then his bigger legs here. These are the legs that carry all the pollen. So you make those a little bit thicker, a little stronger for him. So he needs a heavy leg to be carrying all that pollen. Like that. This one's kind of fat. I think I have to make his little butt a little smaller. Or he's going to have a hard time flying. There. Okay. I'm going to make it a little bit more there. There, you can change them up. And then what I like to do is just take my pen. So if you have these are Sharpie pens, or you can do anything that will be waterproof. And I like to just use my pen, like a micron would be good, and just color in the black parts. I'm not worried about sketchy lines. This is my sketchbook, and this is where I experiment. So I'm just going to go up and down, zigzag in here. Kind of represents the fuzz that's on them. So just a little lighter on the top part, and that kind of gives you that a little bit of a highlight on his body. That, and then one more right here. A little more intense of a black color on the sides. Leave it a little more open on the top. You can bring that up into here too if you want. I want the wings to show though, so I'm just gonna put the wings in. That. And I'm just gonna scribble a few lines for the veining. I'm not gonna get too elaborate with detail. As soon as you start putting color on too, people are going to know what it is, especially any kind of a stripe. Put his little chunky legs in. Little curve on the end. And then I'm just going to put a little fuzzy butt on him. Like that. And there's our bee. Now you can put as many bees on as you want. So the flowers, you could just take your eraser. I kind of, if I have it down, oh yeah, I like using the kneadable erasers because it removes just a bit of the pencil line, so it's not as harsh. And you can just dab or just lightly rub, and it'll take some of that line away, so it's not as noticeable when you start putting color from your watercolors on. Or if you're going to use a colored pencil too, maybe you don't want those lines. I'm just going to rub the bee, so it doesn't need those other lines on it, like that. These are very quick, they're easy, and they're fun. So I hope you'll give them a try. And let me know what else you'd like me to sketch, so I can get some reference material or flowers out of my garden, and we can do some more. So I guess we could stick to this one, although it's not that bright. Maybe we'll do this one here. I'm going to pick this one. This one's prettier. A little white with a bit of purple. So dioxazine purple will work. It's a real dioxazine purple, very deep. So you can take your water and just do the top parts. So these two here, maybe a little bit of the other ones, but there's not as much. There's a bit of white on these, so wherever you put that water will be where this color will go on to. So if you want to leave a white area, you don't put any water on there. So then you can just dab, let it do its thing. Just as the initial coat. I like watching it spread. I think it's so cool. Always amazes me. Then a little bit along the edge. Kind of feathers out. Just along the bottom. You can do this. You could take some photos of your own or look on the internet for viola or pansies. And I can take away some too. If I got too much, just remove some with your paintbrush while it's still wet. And this isn't watercolor paper, so yeah, kind of have to be a little bit quicker if you want to remove something. Now I probably might get a bloom. It's hard to say on this paper, but blooms would probably work for this flower. Like that. I like owls. Would like to do one with you. Okay. Yeah, I like owls too. Actually, I have a whole slew of owls reference photos that I was looking at this weekend. It's funny you'd say that. Okay, so let's put in some nice bright yellow on this little area here. Do you like cute owls or do you like, um, I got some really awesome, they look real, but they have kind of an expression on their face. Okay, so while that's drying, I'm going to do the bee. So the bee, it's kind of an Indian yellow too, a little bit less pigment. And I'll just add a little bit of yellow. And we can darken the sides once he's dry. So we can do this little, was this the dead one, I think? Yeah, that one was the one that was, no, that was the one that was just starting to bloom. So it would be a fairly deep, deep color. So instead of wetting my paper, I'm just going to use wet into dry, they call it. So wet paintbrush on dry paper. That way you get a whole lot more control of where your color's going, and also a little bit more depth of color because more pigment on my brush. Hey Dot, good to see you. How are you? Has the weather been cooperating, or is it still nasty there? Now this one, I think the top ones, I'm looking at a bud of this type, and these lower uh, petals would be a little bit lighter. So I'm using wet into dry again. And they're kind of folded up when they're just starting to open. They're still kind of overlapping each other quite a bit. So you're not really going to get the full look of what color it's going to be. But the bottom, it would show a little bit of this ring that's around the petal. So I'm just going to put that in like that. And this one's kind of dead. This is the dead one. It's faded. I'm fine, thanks. The weather is foul, cold, and very. Oh, wow. Geez, you guys are having a really rough spring. Sheesh. Okay, so let's put that down for a minute. Now let's do some green. It's a beautiful, beautiful green color. Beautiful color of green. Just going to turn this over so you can see that. So it's more of a spring green, beautiful light, or a permanent sap green would do too. I have a Winsor Newton sap green, and I'm mixing it a little bit with Da Vinci leaf green. And that should give me a pretty good color. There's not a whole lot of difference in the color variation as far as the stem and leaf. So I'm just going to do my best here. Using the very tip of my brush. And if I go over the lines a little bit, I'm not too worried about it. You can be a lot more careful if you want a more botanical illustration. I love those, but I don't think I have the patience for that. And it's all what you're happy with, right? Get used to your color and your water consistency. And then if you want to have a little bit more of a challenge, then try advancing into the botanical illustration painting. I don't think I'm there yet. Mainly because I just don't have the patience right now. I don't know why, but I'm happy with what I'm doing. This is what I love to do. And for me, I'm not doing commissions or anything. This is just for me. So that's what I like to do. So you kind of have to decide why you're doing it. Is it to relax, de-stress, just be creative because you like to draw or paint? Some people want to learn the complete way of doing something, or just challenge themselves. Everybody's different. Everyone's got their own reason for doing whatever they're doing. Do these. So why do you guys like doing drawing and this type of thing? Is it a hobby or a learning thing? I'm in Ontario, Canada, and the weather is warm, a little windy, no snow on the ground. Yeah, I'm in Ontario. Well, you know that, Janet. I'm in not too far from you, I don't think. Okay, I'm going to let that dry. I'm not going to do any more. We'll go back in and do more. I'm going to dry this so I can add a little bit more to the bee and stuff. Yeah, it's really warm here today. It's almost 20. Stuff's coming up like crazy, and probably after I do this live, I'm gonna transplant some flowers to divide some stuff, some daisies and that type of thing before they come up too much. Thanks, Joan. Okay, so just to give that a little more dimension, all you have to do is add a little bit. I have this Indian yellow here by whose core I think it is. And just around the edges, just add a little bit of that darker. So that kind of gives it a little more look of it being rounded by the shadow. Like that. The little butt would have a little bit more on it. Just like that. You can let that dry. You can add more. Depends on, you know, your colors you're using. They all dry a little bit differently. Core is usually pretty good as far as drying a little bit the way you put it on. I draw horses, but hated to color them. Like the sketch better. Yeah, I like sketching too. Scary when you love your sketch. You don't want to mess it up by coloring it. I know exactly what you mean. This is the gold, what was it? I can't remember. Xandra got me this. It's a sparkly gold, and it's the most fantastic. Sun gold, I think it's called. She made it. Um, and I love it for wings, fairy wings, and that type of thing, because you can still see through it, but it really photographs nice, which was a shock to me, because usually uh, sparkly stuff doesn't photograph, but this does. So I love using it. It's just sparkly enough to give it a little bit of interest, but it's not too sparkly that it takes away. Okay, so just get a paper towel. Okay, so let's give this a little bit of form. So where did I put that flower? Oh, there it is. So this flower, that's a little bit wonky. There. So we have some really dark darks, little lines off of that beard of yellow. And there's a little bit of green in the center, just a tad. So we can take that. You want it fairly thick in pigment to do the little lines. And it's kind of like 3 or 4 little stripes almost. So let's see. This one has a little more on the side, but make them as long or short as you want. And then just in here, it's not as many, but just a few like that. And then a little bit of green. I'm just going to use the leaf green in the center here, like that. And then I'm going to get a white pen and probably make some marks there, but I think I'm going to make these petals a little bit darker. So this time I'm going to go around the center ones, and I can still see my line, but these are a little bit darker. I'm holding my breath. There'd be a little bit more. I'm just going to take it, push it out a little bit. And then take a wet brush and move it with the wet brush just to bring it out a little while it's wet. And that'll darken those areas a little bit. Now, if you're using watercolor, it's a little easier because this is just paper. You kind of have to work a little bit quicker. And I'm just going to leave a little bit of a line between the two in the lighter color so I can see it. Okay. Now let's take my brush again and just a little bit more, just plain water around the outer edge. And then just add a little bit, just a little bit more. And I'm going to let it bleed into that. Same thing here. So a little bit of water around that edge. And then the paint just on the edge and let it bleed it out itself. And then it just darkens that area up a little bit. You can keep doing this until you think it's right. Okay, and then the same thing with the bottom here. I'm just going to sweep it up with my wet brush, see what it does. Let's experiment. You get a different effect. See what it does. Because it'll follow those sweep up brush marks that you put in. This gives it a little bit of a ragged edge, which is kind of cool. I like it. You can keep adding more and more. Okay. I'm just going to add a little bit of that around the edge of that, just to give it a little bit of definition for where it ends and folds over the other one, like that. Looks good. A little more dark in there, I think. Just where the fold over is, because there'd be a little bit of a dark shadow in there. Like that. Cute. All right. I like it. The pansy has eyes and nose and mustache. Yeah, it does. Okay, so then the same thing we can do is just add a little bit of those greens again. This time I'm going to add a little bit more of the sap green because it's a little darker. And I'm thinking of the areas where shadows would be. So anywhere separating or underneath would be darker. So you can put that in. A little bit darker under the flower itself. If you really want to get, you could do a very thin line here and there. Or if you want to wait, you could use colored pencils. So I'm just putting a little bit under the bottoms here. This might curl down a little bit, so it'd be a little bit on the shadowed side. Maybe a little there. Maybe this stem's a little darker there. This could be totally dark here because it's kind of hiding. A little bit in here. Underneath. These were a bunch of different little leaves coming up. They didn't have a specific form to them. Let's see, a little bit darker in there. Right there. Bring it up. A little darker under there. Like that. Might be darker in here because it's fairly close together and covered by other leaves, so might be darker. That. Okay. What else? Looks pretty good. Now you could take some gouache if you want to brighten this up a little bit. Let's see, do I have any gouache? Close. Or colored pencil. Maybe colored pencil. Let's try that and we'll put some colored pencil on it. See how that bee wing, how so shiny? It's perfect. Okay, so I'm just going to take a white colored pencil. I can find one in here. There it is. Okay. And just lighten, hopefully. It might not work. I might have to get my Posca out, I think. Let's see. Yep. I have a white Posca, a fine one. Just draw some lines into that purple. And it just gives it that kind of ragged look. I'm going to shake it a little bit more. Just a little bit lighter on the inside too. Now you could take Posca, or if you have white gouache, you could use that. White acrylic paint. Pen. And then there's a little bit of a halo around this here. Actually, maybe I'm going to use don't want it too bright. Yeah, that works. Kind of a little halo effect, like that. There, perfect. And a little bit maybe white on the very, very center of the bee, because he would have a little bit of highlight on his top part, like that. All right, and I'm going to put a little bit more. This is what I do. I go back and forth till I like it. So this one here would be a little bit darker right in here. So this is the new flower, or is it? No, I guess it's a spent flower, but it would be a little darker. A lot of times they do get dark as they fade. They do change their colors a little bit. So let's darken, or put a little bit of, wouldn't be as white if it's starting to fade. So I'm going to use that already there, like that. This one can be a little darker in here. Maybe just a tad more in there. They're pretty dark when they're first starting to come out. That. I think that looks pretty good. All right. So there's our bee and pansy. So simple. Take a look at some of your pansies and see what you can do with yours. You could just do pansies and without the leaves. It's endless. Just practice. That's why I like showing you these how-tos, just so that you can experiment do some drawing. Now I could take a pen and do some sketching on that pansy too, maybe just the leaves, or also what I like to do is, where did I put that pen? I like coloring some of them and then also have other ones that aren't. So I would like to do, say, a drawing sketch like this, but only color parts of it. I think that is such an awesome way of doing sketches in your sketchbook too. So you could try that also. You don't have to color everything. So this is the 4th, 11, 3. All right, so I guess that's it. So I hope you give it a try, and if you got any suggestions, I do have one that's from Janet of owls. Maybe we'll do those next week. And you can always add whatever you want suggest suggest me do in the comments below so I can see it. And just the important thing is just to get your sketchbook and start sketching. Just have some fun with it. You'll be very surprised on how stress relieving it is, because when you're concentrating on sketching, time flies by. And before you know it, a couple hours have gone. So you all have a fantastic day. Get outside, do some sketching, and we'll see you on Thursday, and we'll be uh, pressing some of these in my embossing machine. So make sure you subscribe and get notifications if you want to watch me do that. You'll be surprised how awesome they are. All right, we'll let you guys go. Have a fantastic day, everyone. Bye for now.